Good morning. This morning I was reading in Psalm 56 and I ran across some verses that reminded me of a song that I used to sing with my kids. And I cannot remember if it came from a video that we used to watch when they were kids, a little cartoon video, or if it came from a cassette tape. Do you remember cassette tapes? They rolled off of one little spindle onto another little spindle. They were about 4 or 5 inches wide and about 3 or 4 inches tall. You could play them in your car, pop them in, pop them out. Anyways, I used to have a little Walkman with headphones before earbuds were a thing. So many verses in scripture I remember because I sang them with my kids. And sometimes I even forget that I remember these scripture verses until I run across them when I'm reading through the Bible. And this morning it was Psalm 56. You know, how many times in the Bible do we see God says, "Do not fear. Do not fear, for I am with you. Be strong and courageous," he said to Joshua, "for I am with you." So what do you face in this day, this week, that has your attention, and maybe you could even say it has you afraid? What I ran across in Psalm 56 were in verses 3 and 4, and then again in verses 10 and 11. I'm going to read it to you. In 3 and 4 it says, "When I'm afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise. In God I trust and am not afraid. What can mere mortals do to me?" I was talking with a friend over the weekend, and her refrain kept being, "Look, I refuse to live in fear because I know the story. I know what I know in the Bible. I know what I know. I know how this whole thing ends. This whole thing, life, the process of existence. Like this huge big picture, not just me, but thousands and thousands and thousands of generations before me, and however many generations after me, as long as God tarries. I know how this thing ends. I know the beginning, the middle, and the end, and I know because it's been spoken in the word, it's been prophesied. So that was her refrain. And then again in verses 10 and 11, remember I told you it was in 2 places in Psalm 56. "In God, whose word I praise, in the Lord, whose word I praise. In God I trust and am not afraid. What can man do to me?" And so I thought about all the reasons that we have to be afraid in any given day. And I'm telling you, afraid of a bumblebee, afraid of an ant that climbs up your leg, afraid because there's a wasp flying around you, afraid to go to sleep at night because you've been having nightmares, afraid to be alone, afraid of the dark. It's a real thing. Afraid to cross a bridge because in Pittsburgh, sometimes buses get stuck when bridges fall. Afraid to ride a bus because you've seen what happens with buses. Any of it. Afraid to get bit by a dog because a dog bit you before. Afraid to trust in God because you feel like he let you down. What are you afraid of today, this week, as you go out? It says in Psalm 56, "In God, whose word I praise, in God I trust. I am not afraid." And then back in 3 and 4 that I read to you before, "When I am afraid, I put my trust in you. In God, whose word I praise." So this morning, as the dandelions are blowing in the wind and my nose is as stuffy as it has been since I was a kid, At this 6 a.m. scratchy voice, listen to this song, that simple song to remind you when you're afraid to trust in Him. What are you afraid of this week? When I am afraid, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God whose word I praise. In God I trust. When I am afraid, in God I trust. In God whose word I praise. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. I will trust in you. When I am afraid, I will trust in you. In God whose word I praise. So remember that simple little tune. And this week, as you go out, don't be afraid that a bear's going to come up on your porch and get you. Don't be afraid that a person is going to break into your house at night. Don't be afraid that a bee is going to sting you. But trust in God. It's going to be a great day.